how quickly do you decide to do a reboot, and knowing how long it takes to do a reboot, like what are those kind of factors that you would take into consideration?
Some of it depends on which source is actually live when that happens. If it's like a main camera and you can stay on it for a little while, that might buy you some time to formulate another plan.
On New Year's Eve, just hours before the clock rolled over to 2024, I invited some of my YouTube friends onto my 9-hour marathon live stream for a quick chat. Here are some highlights from my conversation with Doug Johnson. I would love to know, for people who are not familiar with you, just quick intro to yourself and your channel and what kind of videos you do and what kind of work you do outside of YouTube.
Okay, all right. So let's start with the YouTube channel. So I've had my YouTube channel now, I guess it's almost 8 years. Well, I've had it longer, but I've been doing video production related content now for about 8 years. And I kind of take things up one level from what you see Aaron and John and some of these other guys do. I focus pretty heavily on the technology, how the technology works, and like understanding what's really going on behind the scenes, so that you're able to troubleshoot things yourself and be able to make all the connections that you need to make. But everything to do with video, and I also take on audio as well. I actually have been doing audio longer than I've been doing video. I started doing audio 30 some odd years ago, doing video for 25 plus years actually. And the other thing, I do a lot of explainer type videos on my channel. It's like, this is how this technology works. This is how you do this particular thing, kind of at a higher level than some of the other guys that are here on YouTube actually do. So I mean, that's kind of the gist of it. But in terms of me personally, video is actually a side job for me. My main job is in software consulting, and I've been doing that since I was 11 years old. So for a very long time at this point. And I spend a lot of time doing that. And then the video stuff is just sort of my escape from the drudgery of doing software all the time. So that's kind of where we're at.
That's great. That's so funny. I love how many people in this space have software experience or a job and then treat the video stuff as fun on the side. Right. It's same with me. I mean, I enjoy the software work too, but I definitely the video stuff is fun thing to do on the side that I can take less seriously. So
yeah. A little bit of interesting trivia for you. So I imagine that a fair number of people who watch this have actually indirectly used some software that I've created. So if you walk into a Little Caesars restaurant somewhere in the world, they're running software that I wrote. So I wrote the software that runs the front counter. I wrote the software that runs the back of house, synchronizes all the data between the stores and corporate. And yeah, so even though I haven't been with them for 7.5 years, they're still using my stuff. So
that's so funny. That's cool. You said that was Little Caesars?
Yes. Yeah, Little Caesars Pizza. Yeah.
Fun. Yeah. Okay, well, we do have a couple of questions rolling in for you already, which is great.
Awesome.
From David, has your opinion about companion stability changed since you did that video 1 to 2 years ago? We were just talking about this earlier.
I'm sure this one comes up a lot. So it's definitely gotten a lot better, and I do use it for non-critical stuff. I still haven't gotten enough confidence in it to hook it up to my ATEM, because anybody who's seen that video knows that I actually have had it crash my ATEM in the middle of a show. Not just companion, but actually crashing the ATEM itself, to the point where I had to reboot it right in the middle of a live stream. And that definitely caused me to lose some confidence in it. Not fun at all. Yeah, it's quite embarrassing. Like your stream goes down right in the middle, and it wasn't a big enough show that I had a backup switcher going, and so yeah, I had to wait for that 20 seconds for the switcher to reboot.
Actually, this is a good question, because I'm curious when that kind of thing happens. You said 20 seconds, but when you don't have like a fully redundant setup there, which is a ton of work and a ton of extra expense, right. What kind of goes through your head when you notice your ATEM crashes and you need to do a reboot? Because one thing I have noticed is when the ATEM crashes, the video still goes through. You just can't control it, right? So it's still doing the video processing. It's just that the button and network interface is all locked up, so you can't do anything with it. But at least it's not like when a computer crashes, like there's no signal, right? If you're streaming in OBS and your computer crashes, you're just offline. But when the ATEM crashes, your video still goes through on whatever was the last input selected. You just can't do anything. So can you walk me through like how quickly do you decide to do a reboot, and knowing how long it takes to do a reboot, like what are those kind of factors that you would take into consideration?
Some of it depends on which source is actually live when that happens. If it's
Mhm.
like a main camera and you can stay on it for a little while, that might buy you some time to formulate another plan. But you know, if you're on a camera that you don't want to stay on, then that means you've got to figure out something else. And fortunately, in my trailer here, I actually run everything through a smart video hub, and normally I would be able to reroute one camera directly into my video encoder. It would cause a little bit of a glitch because it wouldn't be synchronized, but like, it's a little glitch is better than 20 seconds of downtime, right? So I could always reroute a camera directly into my encoder, and that would at least give us video. We'd lose the audio, except for any audio coming from that particular camera, but that would provide some sort of continuity while the switcher's rebooting.
This is actually an interesting point, because I don't have mine set up that way. When I took the video hub out, but even when I had the video hub in, I was treating the ATEM as the last thing in the chain. So ATEM would feed the web presenter directly, but then I have this problem. If I have to reboot the ATEM, everything goes down. So that's actually kind of a good tip of like, put the thing that feeds the web presenter, or whatever encoder you're using, on another switcher so that you can,
so you've got that
in an emergency,
backup,
switch to something else. Because you could have switched to even like a computer showing a keynote slide that says back soon at that point, right? Like that's better than nothing. So
correct. Yeah. So having that routing capability, it can alleviate all sorts of problems. Like, and in the case of not necessarily where we're having a problem with your equipment, but say you needed to produce two simultaneous web streams, you could use your routing switcher to say output ME2 from your switcher to the second encoder or whatever. So being able to flexibly change that in real time. And if you happen to be switching between synchronized sources, that cut between one to the other is actually seamless. So nobody would even see that happening. But yeah, I'd like just being able to reroute your video sources at any time is super, super handy, and can to some degree take the place of a switcher for routing signals in an emergency.
I mean, it's no fun having an ATEM crash, but ultimately everything's going to crash at some point. So you got to be ready and know how to recover from those things as fast as you can. So. Right.
Yeah, and I would love to have a second switcher running all the time, but the fact is, like, I don't have enough outputs on my video hub to drive two switchers simultaneously. So you have to compromise somewhere.
And then you have to, of course, worry about the video hub crashing or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I don't think I've ever so much. Ultimately, there's always something that's going to fail, right? Because it's somewhere along the line, there's going to be one converging path for your signals, but being able to do redundancy as much as possible is certainly something that's nice to do, and like more important when you get into bigger shows where you've got paying client that's really trusting that you're going to pull it off. Yeah, so I do trust Companion more now than I did. They've come a long way. As it turns out, since that video, I discovered that some of the problems I was having were more with individual modules than the main Companion thing itself, and they didn't have those very well isolated from one another back in the day. They've done a lot better job about since then. And I do trust it for non-critical stuff at this point. But I still can't trust it to hook it direct up to my ATEM switcher just yet.
Okay. I mean, I understand being burned by that. Oh, TBJ says, I've heard of major productions going down and using a video hub to do the show. So you never had one of those crash?
I have never had a video hub crash, no. I have had situations where if they get too hot, they start glitching a little bit, but that's a cooling problem, you know. As long as you keep them cool, I've never seen one misbehave other than that. So
I think this is the thing, is the fewer roles a device is doing, the less likely it is for a crash. Like a video hub is doing relatively simple task. It's like video there, go. Like it doesn't have the ability to have USB webcam out. It doesn't have any of those kinds of extra moving parts that can fail and glitch out in weird ways. So yeah, and then the ATEM is like, you know, especially new constellations which do have USB output and
jack of all trades, right? It's doing everything.
Well, no, it's not, because then the ATEM minis have the streaming encoder built in and can record to a drive and all that, which is even more stuff. And like even with the web presenter, I've had the web presenter lock up too, and it's the same thing where like the interface freezes, but the video is still passing through. So it's still encoding and pushing video to YouTube, but it's just locked up and I can't do anything with it anymore.
Yeah.
But
And
like,
most of the time when I've seen that happen, it's actually because it's caching and
yeah,
it doesn't stop immediately when you hit the stop button. It'll empty its
right.
cache.
So I guess it's actually
and
not locked up. It just looks like it's locked up. It's just not
right.
recognizing your button press until it's done with whatever else it's doing. But
And
I think
yeah.
that's the point is that the more things a device is doing, the more likely it is to crash because there's just more opportunities. And then the full other end of that extreme is a computer where it's doing literally everything. If you're running vMix or OBS, where you have a bunch of capture cards in the computer, you have your video processing happening in the computer, it's doing the encoding, um, and then you're totally out of luck. And that's kind of why I like the more modular approach of, oh, well, the ATEM has to be rebooted. Well, I know it's only going to take 20 seconds to boot back up for one. 20 seconds of dead air is better than 3 minutes while a computer boots up and all the things finish loading. And we can do better than 20 seconds by adding in a video hub in between. And then we get it down to a couple of seconds. So that's like, I like being able to just mix and match gear like that.
Right, for sure. Yeah, it gives you a lot more flexibility, and it does cost more to do it that way. But if you're in a situation where you're working for paying clients, you really got to have some backup plan whenever something goes wrong.
Other questions in the chat here for you. How is the basement studio progressing?
Okay, the basement studio is basically done. I have
cool.
not been using it a whole lot, mostly because I don't have a switcher down there. And anybody who watches my channel knows that I hate editing video. And I live switch pretty much everything that I do for my channel, with maybe a few cuts to cut out, where I just fumble my words or whatever. But for the most part, most of the videos I do on my channel, I live cut and then just post them. And I don't have the ability to do that in the basement just yet, because I don't have a switcher down there, which is to a large degree because I haven't replaced the switcher in my trailer yet. So I'm planning on taking the 2ME Production Studio 4K that I have in my trailer and using that in my basement studio.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I'm just kind of waiting to get the new switcher for the trailer, and then I'll cascade that other one down into the basement. So,
speaking of, that takes us to the other questions I've been asking our other guests. In 2023, of all of the gear that you've used for gigs or for YouTube, what was the one thing that you enjoyed using the most?
Enjoyed using the most? I usually answer that question with the video hubs, but I think in this case, I'm going to say that Zoom ISO is probably the thing that I've enjoyed using most this year. I started using it a little over a year ago and really fully embraced it this year, to the point where I've got a DeckLink quad with 8 ins and outs, and I've done shows where I use all 8 of those on a Zoom call, and that just makes my job and for virtual events so much easier. So I'd have to say the combination of Zoom ISO with the DeckLink quad in a Thunderbolt enclosure. So,
and you're using that on a Mac or Windows?
Yeah.
On a Mac.
It's not Mac. Yeah, Zoom ISO is actually only on Mac.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah. The authors of it said they wanted to do a Windows version, but they couldn't guarantee that any given Windows machine would have enough power to handle all those video sources simultaneously.
Fair,
so
yeah.
So yeah.
Which Mac model do you use it with?
I have original Mac Mini M1. When I did all that testing a couple years ago about video rendering performance, and it's actually just out of shot here. But I did make sure to get one that had 16 gig of RAM instead of the 8 gig. 8 is not enough to do anything with video at all.
That was the mistake I made when I was like, I don't know how bought in I am yet to the M1s, so I bought the cheapest one, so 8 gigs, 256 SSD.
Right.
And it's just not enough.
Yeah, it's not enough. So about a month ago, I actually purchased an M3 MacBook Pro, and I will be using that occasionally when I'm not in my trailer. But the Mac Mini stays in the trailer, and I'm using that pretty much exclusively for Zoom ISO.
Well, that's super cool that the M1 Mac Mini, 16 gigs of RAM, can handle a Thunderbolt enclosure with the 8-channel DeckLink card and send 8 videos out.
Yes. That's HD only. So the other, I actually have an 8K Pro. So I have a DeckLink 8K Pro card as well that I can swap into that enclosure and do 4 channels of 4K. And it's not 4K from Zoom, but I'm able to inject 4K into my switcher and produce in 4K.
Okay. I mean, yeah, if you're doing Zoom, you barely get HD anyway.
Right. Right.
Unless you're special, which we're going to learn from Ryan here in a little bit. unless you know the answer, you can steal his thunder. How do you make sure you get an HD feed out of Zoom ISO?
So well, a couple things. So you need to make sure, first of all, you got the checkbox in Zoom checked for HD video from all the people who are sending video to you. So you start with that. But the other thing is you want to email Zoom tech support. You have to have a pro account, but you email Zoom tech support and tell them I'd like to be upgraded to HD, full HD quality on my account, and they'll take care of it for you. It's not something you can do on your own. You do have to get tech support involved in order to make that happen, but they'll do it for you. So just have to ask. And I don't know if you knew this or not, but the Zoom ISO actually has kind of a back channel into the infrastructure behind Zoom itself, and it's able to request a higher quality copy of the video feed than you're able to get with just the normal Zoom client as well. I have no idea why you're not getting higher quality from me. I'm actually sending 4K into Zoom, and
Maybe that's actually the problem.
It's maybe I guess that's possible. That's possible.
So everybody else that was joining, I'm seeing the same resolution for them, which is 640 by 360, which is not much. But some of the other people looked like I wouldn't have noticed that it was 360, right? And what I'm seeing on yours is like the DJP in the background, like I can see the little pixel lines. Actually, you know what? That's what it is. It's because you have a lot of straight lines in your shot. And those, because it's relatively low resolution, it's just exaggerating the scaling. But some of the other people were like, everything was soft. Everything was a curve. Everything was slight gradients, no harsh black and white edges. So I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Okay, we got another question for you from What Are You Doing? I don't think I've seen any of the mini lineup on your channel. Do you have any use for them or just the big rack switchers?
I do use them, but I don't cover them a whole lot because guys like Aaron cover it so well. So I would rather focus on content that other people haven't done than focusing on stuff that everybody else has already covered. So, but I do use an ATEM Mini. I have a Mini Extreme ISO, and then I have an ATEM SDI Extreme ISO, and I do use them from time to time. But yeah, I don't talk about them because Aaron does a great job of that, and you don't need to hear more about it from me.
Fair. I mean, I would say that I think you're coming at this from a different space than me in the first place, so I think you probably would have different things to say than I would. So I wouldn't totally discount it. But I do see that. I do get the point. Yeah,
and it isn't just you that covers it too. Like all the other guys that are doing video production related stuff, they cover the ATEM Mini stuff, and that it feels like everything that can be said about it has been said about it. And I'd rather not repeat what other people were already doing. I'd rather do something that's unique and different.
I'd be curious to see how someone who has a truck for mid to big events might be hired for a gig where you'd be okay with a Mini.
I think that'd be kind of. What's the right word? I'm not sure. Like a counterproductive. I don't know. So they had bring in this big old vehicle like this and just run it on a little Mini. That's kind of funny. So I definitely considered having a Mini in the trailer as a backup, or as an ISO recorder. That's another good use for those products as well. But considering that all my video hubs are completely out of outputs, I don't have a place to hook it up without disconnecting something else.
All your video, you have more than one video hub?
I have two 40 by 40s in the trailer here. Yeah.
That's so many.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to the 80 by 80 when it finally starts shipping. I'm planning on getting one of those. It's not the top of my priority list, but I will be getting an 80 by 80 at some point. And even that is going to be full. So do what you got to do.
Yeah. I mean, if you've already got 40 by 40, two 40s full, then yeah, it'll be simpler to manage though, right? Because you won't have to be worrying about which of the routers it's going through.
Right. For example, but the other thing about having two 40s as opposed to a single 80 with the 40s, I have to dedicate about a dozen or more inputs and outputs on each just to connect the signals between the two. So I'm really only able to connect about 60 to 65 about 60-ish sources in total. Even though I've got 80 inputs technically, plus I need to go direct into the switcher inputs themselves. But I'm looking forward to the 80 by 80 because that will actually allow me to add more stuff that I have not been able to connect in the past.
I dropped a couple of hints on this on a couple of live streams, but we are so Doug bought these, is going to do a video about them, and then I'm going to buy them from him.
Hmm.
and I'm going to hang on to them. So that's a good way to have Doug be able to get some hands-on experience with them without having to actually spend that much money on them without having a real use for them. Because you're all 4K in there now, right?
Yeah, it's
So
everything in my trailer is 4K. Yeah, so yeah,
yeah.
I mean, the 2110 stuff would be nice for certain situations that I work in because I mean, I do events in HD, but I try to not invest in HD only equipment anymore and make sure that everything is 4K compatible.
Oh, Bailey has a question for your 40 by 40. Are you gonna have it as a backup, or are you gonna move that onto a new owner?
I think I'm probably going to sell them out. Honestly, I don't need 40 by 40s for my basement studio, so I'll probably turn around and sell them. I'm kind of looking for a 20 by 20 to put in my fly pack, but I
Mm.
don't want to put a 40 by 40 in my fly pack. That's just too much.
I haven't turned mine back on in a while, and
Yeah.
like I said, I'm just now with the adding the 2110 into this. That's gonna be 3 video feeds, which is like pushing me right up to the edge of my 40. So I think
Mhm.
there's some in there that I don't need on all the time, which is a good use for a video hub. And I'll keep a bunch of
Right.
them routed directly in, and then uh, I will have some of them switched in the video hub. Okay, before we let you go, I want to
Mhm.
know what gear are you most excited about for 2024?
I've kind of already given it away.
I guess you
It's the
have, yeah.
80 by 80 video hub. Yeah. So
Okay,
it was supposed to come out in 2023, but it still hasn't shipped. And so anxiously awaiting that. And yeah, I'll definitely
yeah.
be incorporating that in my trailer when it's finally available.
I hope you do a full trailer tour when you get that installed, then, because I want to see how that all works out.
Yeah. It's going to be a complete rewire of everything in the equipment rack. So I also plan on swapping out the switcher with the 4ME Constellation 4K as
Oh
well.
wow.
So
Okay.
so yeah, it's going to be kind of a gut and redo for all that
That's
stuff.
that's gonna be a lot of work. That's how it goes. All right. Well, thank you for joining. It was fun to have you here.
Glad to be
We
here. Yeah.
will we will make sure you check out Doug's channel. Link is below. Lots of great videos on the channel. And yeah, thanks for joining. And I guess we'll play you out with some music and do a little quick transition while we get ready for the next guest.